The information on providing literacy instruction to deaf students discussed in this presentation is based on the research studies I synthesized over the course of the semester. Because many members of the deaf community do not view their deafness as a disability or limitation, I will be referring to these individuals as deaf students rather than using person-first language. Before we begin looking at deaf education, let's take a look at how hearing students begin learning to read. Early childhood education emphasizes phonological awareness, which is identifying and manipulating sounds and words. Phonemic awareness falls under this umbrella. Phonemic awareness is recognizing that spoken words are made up of phonemes. Students are expected to isolate, blend, segment, add, and delete phonemes, the smallest unit of speech, when developing emergent literacy skills. As mentioned, early childhood education emphasizes phonological awareness. In fact, phonemic awareness is considered crucial. It is one of the 5 pillars of literacy as illustrated here. Because it is considered necessary in order to develop a child's foundation for literacy, all strong core reading programs include it. So, if phonemic awareness is critical and considered a necessary component of our core reading programs, how do we go about teaching deaf students to read? How do we build their literacy skills if they are not able to hear phonemes, let alone whole words? And will this literacy foundation that we emphasize for our hearing students fall apart for our deaf students without phonemic awareness? Unfortunately, there is a limited amount of research on this topic, and the studies I was able to find had very small numbers of participants. Luckily, we live in a time of amazing technology. Bulky machines that had only one purpose have now been replaced by iPads, tablets, and smartphones that are capable of doing much more. Whether using assistive technology, an education app, or even a program like FaceTime, technology can help deaf students become independent, communicate, and learn. Brower, Downing, Westhoff, Waite, and Wessel, Messer-Smith, and Hansen examine the use of technology, in this case using the app Endless Alphabet, paired with explicit scaffolded instruction on the letter knowledge and vocabulary skills of 4 preschool students, 2 of whom wore cochlear implants and 2 with no hearing loss. What was interesting was that each student was able to master the targeted letter sounds and vocabulary words with 100% accuracy, despite their level of hearing loss. This proves that prior knowledge may be a better indicator for reading readiness than hearing status. Also noteworthy was that one participant had used the app in their home prior to the study. This showed that while technology can be a helpful tool, it is much more effective when used with explicit scaffolded instruction and reinforcement. In another study, Syvrid, Gardino, and Sleznick identified 2 different approaches using direct instruction to provide reading instruction to deaf or hard of hearing students. One used American Sign Language while avoiding teaching phonological skills. The second develops phonemic awareness and letter sound associations. They chose to research the second option. One challenge deaf and hard of hearing students face when developing phonemic awareness skills is not having access to the auditory information that hearing students do. Another is confusing sounds because of the similar movements of the mouth when forming these sounds. Yet another is the range of certain sounds. To address these challenges, the researchers use hand motions to aid students in mastering letter sounds. The researchers recommended using a program such as Visual Phonics, which provides cues for spoken sounds. The study found that using direct phonological instruction paired with hand motions to help distinguish difficult sounds improved the student's ability to decode. In another study, Wang and Paul examined the use of the cornerstone approach. This is defined by certain features, including a story in the form of video with captions, setting objectives for each lesson, and using technology to meet students' communication needs and present material. Participating teachers alternated between their typical instruction and the cornerstone approach. Data indicated that the cornerstone approach was more effective for teaching word identification and story comprehension. Teachers indicated that students were more engaged and motivated during these lessons. So far, we have touched on the importance of exposing deaf students to literacy early on, using technology to enhance instruction, and providing direct instruction in ways that will motivate and engage students. It is important to recognize that once deaf students learn to read, they may still be struggling to keep up with their peers in the general education setting. Hal and Luckney explained that some deaf students are not able to benefit from general education classes because of their reading level. However, if these students are provided with additional explicit literacy instruction, they are more likely to excel in the general education setting. Their study revealed that explicit instruction and text features can have a profound impact on deaf students' literacy skills and ability to find answers when reading. Using mental imagery and visualizing when reading and learning vocabulary words was also very beneficial to the deaf student in this study. She created visual images, then used them as a study aid. Finally, explicit instruction and summarization, including why, when, and how to summarize, also led to an increase in her grades. She applied these literacy strategies to her other classes and felt much more confident in the general education setting. The key takeaways I found from my research in this area are the impact of using direct, explicit instruction, along with a research-based program and technology. Also, in most cases, the teacher recommended a student for participation in the study. This illustrates the importance of having knowledge of your students and their needs. When research-based strategies are selected based on knowledge of the student and their needs, and then shared and communicated with other teachers, our students can reach their full potentials. Finally, more research is needed in the area of literacy instruction of deaf students. Action research involves identifying a problem, devising and implementing a plan, collecting and analyzing the data, followed by reflection. This is something that teachers do throughout the course of every school year. I encourage more teachers working with deaf students to consider formally conducting action research so the strategies you find most effective can be used to benefit other students as well and strengthen their literacy foundation.